Hey YouTube, welcome back to another History Teacher Reacts video with Mr. Terry. Today I'm checking out another movie trailer. So not long after I had found out recently about the Midway movie, I was told about an upcoming movie that seems to be about World War One, titled 1917. So this must refer to World War One. 1917 is possibly the most important year of the war, as it was the year of the Russian Revolution, and just kind of how that ends up unfolding is Russian Revolution takes place during the war back at home in Russia. And to kind of make a long story short, it ends with new government regime taking over the Tsar. And also, in terms of World War One, Russia pulls out of the war and basically ends their involvement and comes into a treaty with Germany. It's also the year that the United States enters the war. So declaring war in kind of the spring of 1917 and then getting involved months later. So I definitely love the idea of a World War One movie. You know, the World Wars are definitely the most famous of all the historical topics that people go over, and even among that, World War One gets painfully overlooked by World War Two, and it's kind of a shame that it does that. Because it is so important, and there's so much more to it than people probably know. They usually have a lot of false conceptions about it and just see it as World War One. Or sorry, they see World War One as basically just World War Two or something like that, or it didn't really matter. You know what I mean? Which is totally not the case. So I'm glad to get something produced that hopefully the public will kind of embrace and hopefully learn about World War One. So I don't know anything else about this film. I don't know what exactly the content's going to be, so that's just me giving an opinion based off of what I know about 1917. So let's go ahead and check this out and see what we can pick out, and I don't know, just see what it's like. Oh, starting right with a bombing. Pretty good year. I mean, to pick something that's going to be in the war, or part of the war. I mean, you could do a whole thing on the buildup of the war starting in 1914, but there's so much to move on that. That might go way over people's heads. So I might as well hit the kind of apex of the war here in 1917. Universal DreamWorks. So it's got big money behind it. It looks like. Oh, going through trenches. Be the worst. These would be British soldiers, the helmets they're wearing. So maybe they've pushed in across into a German barracks through the trenches there. You know, people. Oh, about to be explosion. You know, war. You know, in like World War One. In the bringing up of this and the raising, especially of this generation, something that happens, of course, is the dehumanization of war, and it almost seems like you see in books, for example, and literature and things like that. For example, what comes to mind is All Quiet on the Western Front, which kind of goes through the story, and at the beginning shows kind of how impersonal war was at first, right? That these people, they're the people that you're fighting, they are faceless, nameless drones out there, right? And then one of the messages that toward the end of the war was realizing that the people across the lines are no different than you, and that's, you know, at least from Eric Remarque, right? Author of All Quiet on the Western Front, kind of made as a message toward the end of the war that was what, you know, he and the main character of the story was trying to figure out here. And that just gave me thoughts as I was looking at, you know, this soldier going through and seeing, you know, this picture of one of these soldiers and their family, and that these are, you know, definitely real people. And remember, by 1917, this war has been a stalemate ever since the get-go, and it's just absurd amounts of death with very little success. So one of the things that characterized World War I was actually how little movement there was on the Western Front, specifically, which totally changed the ideas of war about moving quickly and advancing and these sort of things, when the new technologies of war basically made it so it became a bloody stalemate where every meter, you know, could cost thousands of lives. And by 1917, that the war, word I'm looking for, kind of like the motivation, I guess, was really waning. Sam Mendes. Skyfall, James Bond.
You have a brother in the 2nd Battalion.
Yes, sir. Is he
alive? And with your help, I'd like to keep it that way.
Oh, is this like a Saving Private Ryan thing? If you haven't seen Saving Private Ryan, the whole thing was them trying to find this Private Ryan who was the last of his family that was still alive in World War II. Apparently, they had a policy in World War II that if you had multiple, if like a family had multiple children go to the war and all but one of them died, they pull that one out of the war and they go after Matt Damon. So that kind of reminded me of that, if, you know, they're trying to do that. Notice too, I like this, looking at this right here, look how young these soldiers are. And by this time in the war, you know, everybody was exhausting their reserves, right? And you had conscription and things like that in different parts of the war. Although I don't believe it happened as much with, didn't happen nearly as much with the British as compared to others. But overall, by the end of the war, the soldiers were getting younger and younger and younger because the men of age were dying, and the only reinforcements there were young people. So people forget about that you look at these soldiers as like these hardened soldiers like that, but that's not one of these types of wars. This is a conscripted war, and young, you know, 18 to 21 and stuff was filling these ranks, and these are just children. I mean, think of yourself if you're older than that or of that age, about being thrown into something like this and how you think you would react, but then maybe realizing how you'd probably react. Be very hard.
But they're walking into a trap. Your orders are to deliver a message calling off tomorrow morning's attack. If you don't, we will lose 1,600 men.
Wait. That was a big thing. Let's go over that again. What's he saying?
But they're walking into a trap. Your orders are to deliver a message calling off tomorrow morning's attack. If you don't, we will lose 1,600 men. Wow.
So they're going after a moment where it sounds like these people are going to be charged, have an incredibly important task. You know, the battle of intelligence is so big in these wars. And again, with the destructive nature of this war, being again one that introduced so many new war military technologies, something like that, like we could lose 1,600 men very quickly is very possible, and it's what also separated this war from other wars, is the ability to kill at such a large, sudden scale.
Your brother among them.
Extra motivation there, right? Go for your brother. Time. Ooh, they got to go behind. Okay, so they're going behind enemy lines there, somewhat. Anytime you see... Okay, the barbed wire. So this is where you're getting... So you had the trenches, right? And then you had a series of barbed wire, which again made it nearly impossible to pass through because you were basically staring down the other trench, and they can be able to hit you with artillery or longer range weapons. So it's why they called the area between the trenches no man's land, because it was... You don't go there. You go there, that is a death wish. So I'm glad they're really focusing on the trench warfare, because I don't know how you do a World War I movie without mostly making about trench warfare, because that's mostly what was going on, especially, of course, in the Western Front, and characterize this war.
There's only one way this war ends. Last man standing.
Cumberbatch?
What the hell are you doing, Lance Corporal? No!
He's great.
If you fail,
He's running a different direction.
it will be a massacre. Good luck.
No pressure. December. I'm assuming that's this year, right? Sam Mendes, what did he do? What has he
Good
done?
luck.
Let me know. Okay, so is that this December as in 2019? Not far off from Midway, or when, I forgot when Midway is releasing. Isn't that around then too? Got some war movies coming in at the same time. All right, well, I'm definitely interested in this. As not only is it World War One, looks like you got high production values there, and I mean it's hard to do just a movie on like the whole war. So you definitely have to have some personalized stories. So hopefully, what they're able to do in this kind of movie is be able to balance the personal story with the context, right? Like people, for example, and if you saw my Midway or my reaction to Midway, like the Pearl Harbor movie, right? The one that everyone hates with Ben Affleck. How it was way more about this love story and then not the context of the actual attack on Pearl Harbor, which is basically like a sacred event in American history. Hopefully in this movie, they're able to find that balance between that, the personal story that apparently he's going after this brother and trying to give, well, and more importantly, trying to warn this group about a potentially failed attack or something like that. But being able to also tell the background of the movie, I think for me, I would really like that. I would really like that. Sometimes it's hard on movies when it gets so individualized. Even a movie like Dunkirk, for example, which is basically just about that event. You know what I mean? It's neat, but I also would rather see more context of what else is going on. But I guess, I mean, different war movies have different, can be done in different ways. So it does sound like it has to be a certain way for sure. But that's just something I think I would be kind of ready for, to see that. Maybe that's just a fan of history and being able to at least hopefully have some background knowledge of what that context would be like. Because I mean, if it's too much context, then a casual viewer will not be able to keep up and they won't really get it. So with that, that's just my thoughts so far. Well, anyways, definitely looking forward to this. Are you looking forward to it? Interested just because I did a video recently on the Midway preview. Of the two war movies, which one are you looking most forward to? Which one do you think will be better? I mean, that's hard to tell right now. Which one's subject matter are you more interested in seeing? So maybe we can kind of do a compare and contrast with that. So leave me your comments below, whether it's in YouTube comments or come over to our Discord server, which you can join. There'll be a link down below, and you can come join us there, and we can have hopefully a good discussion. Okay. All right, with that, I think we'll go ahead and head out. Now, there will be a link to the trailer if you want to just see it again, or just without my commentary, there'll be a link down below. So definitely do that if that is something you'd be interested. Talk about the Discord. Definitely join our Discord server if you haven't yet and you'd like to join our history community. It'd be great to have you over there. Thanks to everyone that's supporting the channel. Thank you to all patrons that are on Patreon. One of the perks of being a Patreon member is get to vote in a weekly poll for some of the videos that get on this channel. But first and foremost, just thank you for being here. Thanks for subscribing, and definitely hope to see you soon. All right. Goodbye.